I immediately just fell into being completely lazy and rewatching a lot of the Marvel Cinematic Universe for some reason.
Hi, my name is Brenna. Welcome back to my channel where I talk about books that I'm reading, specifically books that I own and haven't read yet. So for the past 2 months, I've been on maternity leave and I am going back to work in 3 days. Okay, so for the last few weeks, I've been recording just some of my thoughts on my reading that I've been doing in the month of February. In my last video, I talked about all the books I wanted to read in February, and so in this video is where I detail and document the books that I actually ended up reading this month. Here is where I started with my reading for February. I've been very sick. This has been the first time I've gotten sick since I had a baby, which has been absolutely insane. I'm surprised I have survived. Okay, that being said, I'm on my way to a doctor's appointment. I'm in my car and I forgot to download my next audiobook. I just finished I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy, read by her, which is a fabulous audiobook, but I have forgotten to download the next audiobook that I want to listen to, and it's a mix-up between Percy and the School for Good Mothers. And I'm kind of leaning toward the School for Good Mothers because, as I've already said, I don't know if I'm going to be in the mood to read that book, mainly because I found out about that book before I was pregnant, before I even knew I was going to be a mom, and I was really excited. I was like, oh, that sounds really cool. That sounds like a really cool book. And now I'm thinking, am I going to be able to handle this book? Me, the person who can't even read any books about pregnancy or motherhood, nonfiction, by the way, can't even read those because it gives me so much anxiety. Am I going to be able to read a dystopian fiction novel about motherhood in which mothers who are deemed bad have to go to a school to become good? I don't know. That's the answer to that question. I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle that book, but I think I want to try it because it looks so interesting. It intrigued me long before I went on this motherhood adventure. So I'm going to try it. I'm going to give it a shot. I think I'm going to try it first before I try Percy, because I feel like if I don't like it, if I can't handle it, if I'm getting too overwhelmed, too much anxiety, I can switch over to Percy and I'll be fine. The other few books that I have on my TBR for this month, there isn't an audiobook for. So I'm going to have to, read them, the old-fashioned way. My plan is to get into the doctor's office because I'm pretty early. I'm going to see if I can download the School for Good Mothers while I'm in the doctor's office waiting room, and then listen to it on my way back. Because then I have another doctor's appointment today. I have a dentist appointment later this afternoon. So I feel really kind of bad because I left my husband at home with the baby and he got maybe 4 hours of sleep last night. Such is life as a parent now, and maybe that's what this book is going to be about. I'm kind of scared. Is that bad? Is it bad to be scared to read a book? It's just a book, right? Am I going to feel a lot of feelings? Those are the questions that I have. Those are the concerns that I'm going into with this book. I'm afraid I'm going to be overwhelmed by feelings. And maybe, maybe I won't, but there's a possibility that I might be disappointed if I do not have overwhelming feelings when I read this book. Is that weird? Is that weird of me to say? I mean, I'm kind of scared that I'm gonna have overwhelming feelings, But at the same time, if I don't have overwhelming feelings, I'm going to be kind of disappointed, you know? Because I feel like I should. Okay, that's it. I'll see you after I make my decision. Okay, so it's the afternoon, and I have gotten done with both appointments, my doctor's appointment this morning and my dentist appointment this afternoon. I just finished the first chapter, and I don't know how I feel about it yet, but it is pretty wild. The story so far is pretty wild, and it's pretty kind of scary. Like, I already think that I'm gonna have trouble reading it because it's about, her daughter is like a toddler, so she must be like 2 years old or something like that. No more than 2 years, 18 months, right? Is what she said. She's got an 18-month-year-old daughter, and she basically is caught leaving her child home alone without supervision. She like leaves the house because she's had this crazy week where she hasn't slept and her daughter's been sick, and she leaves the house to get a coffee and ends up leaving the house, like staying out of the house to like go to the office and get a file, and leaves her daughter at home for basically 2 hours unsupervised. And she's caught. Someone calls CPS on her, and they take her daughter away, and she has to go for an investigation, and her daughter is taken by her ex-husband. So they're doing an investigation on her, on how good of a mother she is, basically. And so the whole first chapter is her basically dealing with this quote mistake that she said she made, dealing with the after effects of basically losing her daughter to CPS and to her ex-husband. So one of the things that I think makes this like a dystopian, I said earlier, and it kind of is, it's kind of like our world where there is child protective services, but the child protective services are like a lot more scrutinizing, I would say, than the ones in our world. And they have like a new program that they're using, right, where they basically, if there is suspected child abuse or neglect, they go into the home and they set up cameras in the home to monitor the parent to see what kind of person they are and to analyze their feelings. And so that's the point I'm at in the book so far. I think this is going to be a hard read for me. Like, I feel like I'm going to have a hard time reading it, but I also think I'm not going to want to not read it. Like, I feel like I'm going to want to read this. I don't know. We will see. I'm going to keep listening. I have the hard copy on my shelf at home, so I might jump into that. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Now we're back to today is the next day, and I have listened to a little bit more of School for Good Mothers, and I got home yesterday and I had the hard copy open to read the next chapter, like physically read the next chapter, and I decided that I didn't want to read it because I had just gotten about 150 pages into Brave Story, which I am like so obsessed with this book. I love this book so much. It's so cute. It is about this Japanese kid who lives in Tokyo, and in his neighborhood there's like this old shrine, but next to this shrine is this unfinished building, and there's rumors going around his school that it's haunted, and he doesn't necessarily believe that it's haunted. He's kind of suspicious. You know, he's a very logical kid. He wants to investigate for himself whether these rumors are true. He becomes so obsessed with figuring out what's going on with this haunted building. He sneaks out of his house at night with his friend to go investigate for himself to see if there's a ghost there. And instead of meeting the ghost, he meets the owner of the building and his family. And the main character, Wataru, finds it really strange that Mr. Damatsu is there with his family at like after midnight. But you know, Mr. Damatsu, he's very kind, and his family is very kind. He has this really nice son, and he also has this daughter who is wheelchair bound. The daughter is very entrancing to Wataru because she is very beautiful, but she clearly has some form of cerebral palsy because she does not speak and she's completely wheelchair bound and she doesn't really move. And so Mr. Damatsu's excuse basically why they're out so late is because he wanted to take his daughter on a walk, and she doesn't like being around a bunch of people when they go out for a walk. And so they went for a walk by his unfinished building in the middle of the night to get some fresh air. Yeah, makes perfect sense. Wataru doesn't totally buy this, but it does continue to keep his suspicions about this strange unfinished building. And the more that he investigates it, the more strange things starts happening to him. Like he hears this strange girl's voice in his head that's talking to him, and he's not sure like where it's coming from or if he's going crazy. He meets this strange transfer student who just moved to his school, who doesn't seem to talk to a lot of kids, but also seems to know something about the unfinished building. So yeah, there's a lot of like really cute like adventure story things happening in this book. And then of course there's reality stories that are happening to Wataru as well, because in his real life, aside from this mystery that's happening with the unfinished building, there are other serious things happening in Wataru's life with his family, with his friends, and with what's going on in his life. So I'm only 140 pages in, but I really want to read this. So I have put down The School for Good Mothers for right now. I still have it on audio, and while I'm cleaning, I do want to listen to an audiobook. And unfortunately, I can't listen to this because I can't find a copy of an English version of this audiobook, unfortunately. So I'm going to have to listen to something else. So I don't know if I'm going to listen to School of Good Mothers, because while I could listen to it in the car on my way to the doctor's appointment, I don't know if I can listen to it in my house when I'm faced with my own motherhood. So I might download something else. I might download Percy, or also I've downloaded a couple of short books on my Kindle that I've been kind of going through. They're like really short stories. They're like part of the Amazon Prime reading gig or whatever, like little free snippets. And they're by a lot of famous authors. And so I've read a couple of them by authors that I know or that I want to get into. So I've been kind of like using that as like a gateway to judge if I should read some of their longer stuff. So I might listen to a couple of those while I'm cleaning up around the house. And yeah, we'll see what happens after that. Okay, so I cleaned up a little bit. I listened to a story. It was really good. I listened to N.K. Jemison's short story Emergency Skin, which was really good, and it came with this little note from Blake Crouch about the whole little series. I definitely think that N.K. Jemison is going to be an author I'm going to get into for this year for sure. But now that I've listened to that and I have a few minutes to myself, I'll probably get to some of the more pressing reading that I actually have to do for my job. I have 2 textbooks that I'm working on getting through for my theater classes that I'm just currently like reading through and trying to take notes on so I can like prepare some lessons when I go back to school in a couple of weeks. I have acting and musical theater, which is actually a really advanced text for my 8th graders. I'm trying to see if I can work through it to kind of bring the reading level down a little bit and make the concepts a little bit more accessible to middle schoolers. Although I will say most of the 8th graders that I have this year who are in my theater classes are more than capable of reading this level of text. But I still kind of want to, just for my own benefit and for future benefit, kind of work through it and see what I can do to take some of the ideas out and make them a little bit more accessible. The other textbook that I have is for my 6th and 7th graders, and I think I'm going to use this for just my 7th graders in the future, but it's called How Does the Show Go On? An Introduction to Theater, and it's written by the guy who produced The Lion King on Broadway, and this is such a cool book. I don't know if you ever check this book out, but it's like, it like folds open, kind of like a little curtain, like a theater, and then some of the pages have their own little like pop out things. Like in one page you have like a little envelope and you can pull out a ticket, which is kind of cool, which I love. I think this is so fun and interactive. It's definitely a good book to use with middle schoolers and to like show them the different aspects of theater. So yeah, so those are the 2 books I'm working my way through now, you know, when I have a chance to actually sit at my desk and work, which is not very often right now. So maybe sometime in the future. I'm slowly working my way through them. But anyway, was today. I'm gonna work on my textbooks now, and yeah, and enjoy my afternoon.
Alright, so small little update. After I filmed myself cleaning my house, I immediately just fell into being completely lazy and rewatching a lot of the Marvel Cinematic Universe for some reason. I am returning to work next week, which is going to mean that my time is a lot more restricted, which will be an interesting experiment. Talking about what I have been reading, I've only gotten through the 2nd chapter of The School for Good Mothers. I hesitate to listen to it. There's a lot in this. There's a lot of anxieties. Like it speaks to a lot of the anxieties that I have. Not necessarily the same ones, but you know, it is about kind of balancing this newfound life that you have to balance with your own. I probably will read it someday. I don't know if I'm going to finish it this month though. I don't know if I'm going to finish it this year. I might have to DNF it for a later date. But I do think I will read this eventually. She's not right now, but when she is up, I've been trying to like read books to her, and like, so I thought I would review a couple of the board books that I've been using with Freya. They're both mirror books. Look Baby, Magical Creatures, and Hello Baby. And I like them because they have a little mirror on them, so I've been trying to get her to see herself in the pictures. The Magical Creatures one is probably my favorite out of the 2, because it has a unicorn on the cover, and then it tells you about the animal, and then it says, look what I am, and it's like a dragon, and they have a mermaid, and they have a whole bunch of cute little things. So, and there's a mirror on every page, so you can kind of, like, you're supposed to see yourself in the little character. This one, however, I enjoy because it's like a normal generic Hello Baby mirror book, but then it just tells you about animals, and it gives you their pictures, but there's no mirror in the actual book. It's only on the front cover. And on the last page, you actually get to the end of the book, but then it kind of asks the question, and you're supposed to flip back over to the front cover. I think it's kind of, yeah, here we go. Supposed to flip back over to the other side of the front cover. No, it doesn't make a ton of sense. So I'm going to read it a couple different ways with her and see which one works best. Last thing is I got some book mail. Don't tell anyone. I bought books. I bought 3 books. One of them I've already read before, and I think the one that I read before is the one that just came in. But I wanted it in hardback because I borrowed my copy from somebody. Yes, and it is Iron Widow. Look at this. Thank you, the person at Pango Books who listed this. This is so nice. Anyway, so her second book, the second book in the series, is coming out hopefully soon. I am pre-ordering Heavenly Tyrant, which is the sequel, And I wanted to get the hardcover of Iron Widow on my shelf so that when Heavenly Tyrant comes in, I can put it next to its other series. So excited about that. It's been really hard for me to muster some motivation throughout these last couple of days because I really, really like staying home and taking care of my daughter. But I also know I have to go back to work. So it's been kind of tough. I'm not going to lie. Honest moment with you here. It's a really tough, decision. Anyway, I feel like I'm rambling now, so I'm going to stop. And maybe some of this will go into the vlog. All right, I'm popping back in really quick to tell you that I got more book mail. Got the other 2 books. Okay, so I got Emily Henry's Book Lovers, which is something I've been really anxious to read. I've never read Emily Henry before, so I'm kind of excited to give it a try. Is Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I've been recommended this book like a billion times, so I'm really excited to finally have a copy of it. And it counts as reading from my shelf because it's officially on my shelf now. Okay, and also, Freya got a book. The Little Old Man Who Could Not Read. I'm so excited. Thank you. I gotta go. Bye. Okay, so now we're back. It's the end of my maternity leave. I'm going back to school in 3 days. I have officially DNF'd the School for Good Mothers. Not DNF'd forever, but definitely DNF'd until I feel a little bit more empowered to read it. I have not started Circe or The High Price of Materialism or the manga that I wanted to read this month. Technically, that's a lie. I did start the manga. I read the first page of the manga that I wanted to read this month, but I don't think I'll get a chance to talk about it before I end this video and publish this video. However, I did finish annotating and reading one of the textbooks that I wanted to for this month. I haven't gotten all the way through the second textbook that I wanted to get to, and I probably won't this month or even until the summer. It's gonna be a project for the future when I have more time, which may be never. If I ever learn how to get insomnia, maybe then I can get to that. So I know I've spent most of this video talking about reading and what I've been doing for the last few weeks, but I did get to a point in my maternity leave where I just could not pick up another book. And I actually ended up watching several movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I got a Disney Plus subscription and I just binged it. A lot of the MCU I've already seen. It's mostly the new stuff, post-multiverse explanation that I have just gotten into. And I have to say I haven't watched all of it, although Loki, the TV show, has gotta be my favorite story in the MCU just of all time. I love that show. It's completely underrated and I know some people hate it, but I absolutely love it. It's so good. Also, I think that Owen Wilson is hysterical in everything. Even though he plays the same person in every single thing that he does, he is just so funny when he does it. So I just really enjoy it. I watched the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which I really loved. The whole Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, honestly, is very good. It's one of the better MCU productions, in my opinion, from start to finish. Some of the others that have sequels, like Iron Man and Captain America and Thor, I feel like Guardians of the Galaxy feels like a complete work on its own. Oh, not related to the MCU, I also watched Percy Jackson and the Olympians. I want to start out by saying that I was a huge fan of the books when I was younger, and I read them straight through. They were so good, and I read one entire book in the bookstore while I was waiting to get it. So I really enjoy the book series by Rick Riordan. And I know it hasn't gotten a lot of like praise, but the TV show is very good. In fact, out of the 2 adaptations that they have done of Percy Jackson, the one on Disney Plus is much better. First of all, the ages of the characters actually match the ages of the actors in the series. And it is much closer to the book series than it is than the previous adaptation was. But it has made me question what happens in the book. So I do want to go back and reread the series, because I've seen a couple people say that it doesn't follow the book series as closely as I think it does. I did enjoy the series though. I thought it was a really superb adaptation of the books. I thought it was spot on. That has been my reading for the last few weeks and couple of months, and watching as well. I'm really sad that I have to go back to work, because it's been so nice to be home and just have to worry about one kid's needs for the entire day. Yeah, I'm gonna miss this. I'm gonna really miss this. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this vlog. If you liked it, subscribe. You know, if you have any thoughts about any of the books I mentioned, or the MCU, or Percy Jackson, please comment down below. I love talking about this stuff with people. It's kind of why I started this channel. I will see you in the next one. There will be more, just maybe not as long or as in depth, but I will definitely see you at the end of February when I hopefully get through the rest of the books that I have on my TBR. So thanks. Have a fabulous day. Bye.